Tonight, Talechka will tell you a quiet story from the deep forests of old Bulgaria. A story about an ancient tree, a lonely boy named Biser, and whispers carried softly through the leaves at night. So close your eyes and listen carefully to the wind beyond the branches. The tree that whispered softly. Long ago, beyond rolling hills and silver rivers, there stood a forest older than memory itself. The villagers called it the listening forest, because no one who entered it ever truly felt alone. The trees there were enormous, their roots twisted deep beneath the earth, and their branches stretched so high that even moonlight struggled to reach the ground below. During the day, the forest felt peaceful. Birdsong drifted through the leaves. Soft rivers moved between moss-covered stones, and sunlight shimmered in quiet patches across the earth. But at night, the forest changed. Not into something frightening, only older, still, and full of hidden whispers. Some villagers believed the trees spoke softly to one another after sunset, sharing stories carried by the wind. Others believed the forest remembered every traveler who had ever walked beneath its branches. At the edge of this ancient forest, there lived a young boy named Biser. He lived with his mother in a tiny wooden cottage beside a field of wildflowers. Biser was quiet by nature, not because he was afraid of people, but because he preferred listening. He listened to rain against the roof, to insects singing beneath the grass, to rivers flowing through distant hills. And every evening, before sleep, he listened to the wind moving through the forest trees. His mother often smiled gently at him. "You hear things others forget to notice," she would whisper kindly. But Biser sometimes felt lonely. The village children laughed loudly together in the square. They chased one another beside the river, and played games beneath the old stone bridge. But Biser preferred wandering slowly through quiet places. And because of this, many children believed he was strange. Still, the forest never made him feel strange. There, everything moved slowly. Everything listened. One autumn evening, as golden leaves drifted softly through the air, Biser wandered deeper into the forest than ever before. Mist curled gently between the trees, and the sky above had already begun turning deep blue with evening. The forest felt endless, silent except for the soft crunch of leaves beneath his boots. Then suddenly, Biser heard something. A whisper, very soft, almost hidden beneath the wind. At first, he thought it was only the branches moving overhead. But then he heard it again. Biser. He stopped walking immediately. The forest became still around him. Biser. This time, the voice sounded older than any person he had ever known. Gentle, slow, like distant leaves brushing together in the dark. Carefully, Biser followed the sound deeper among the trees. At last, he reached a wide clearing hidden beneath the fading evening sky. And there, in the center of the clearing, stood the largest tree he had ever seen. Its trunk was enormous, wide as a cottage. Its bark shimmered silver-brown beneath the moonlight, and its branches stretched endlessly across the stars above. The air around the tree felt warm, even though autumn cold drifted through the forest. Biser stepped closer slowly. Then once more, the whisper returned. "Do not be afraid." Biser looked around carefully, but no one stood nearby. Then softly, the leaves above him rustled. And suddenly, he understood. The tree itself was speaking. Its voice was not loud, not human, only soft and ancient, like wind remembering forgotten songs. "You listen carefully," the tree whispered. "And because you listen, you can hear us." Biser rested his hand gently against the old bark. It felt warm beneath his fingers, alive somehow. "Why are you speaking to me?" he whispered quietly. For a long moment, only leaves moved above him. Then the tree answered softly. "Because the forest is growing lonely." Biser looked up through the enormous branches. Moonlight shimmered softly between the leaves. "The people no longer listen," the tree continued. "They hurry through the world. They forget silence. They forget wonder." Its ancient voice drifted through the clearing like falling leaves. "But you still hear the wind." Biser stood silently beside the great tree. And somehow, the loneliness inside him began to feel smaller. From that night onward, he returned to the clearing often. Sometimes he brought warm bread from home. Sometimes only quiet company. The tree spoke to him about many things. About rivers beneath winter ice. About foxes sleeping beneath roots. About storms crossing distant mountains. About forgotten travelers who once rested beneath its branches long ago. And slowly, the forest itself began to feel alive around him. Owls watched peacefully from the trees above. Silver deer appeared silently between the fog. And tiny golden lights drifted through the darkness on moonlit nights. As autumn faded slowly into winter, the forest grew quieter than ever before. Snow covered the roots of the ancient tree. Icicles shimmered softly beneath the branches. And cold winds wandered through the hills at night. Yet Biser still visited the clearing, even during snowfall. Even when the forest paths nearly disappeared beneath white drifts. One evening, as he sat beside the great tree quietly, the ancient voice whispered once more. "Winter remembers many things." Biser looked upward curiously. "What does winter remember?" he asked softly. The branches creaked gently overhead. "It remembers every promise people forget." Biser thought about those words for a long time, while snow drifted silently around the clearing. That winter became colder than any before it. The river near the village froze solid. The wind howled through narrow streets after sunset. And many villagers stopped visiting the forest completely. Some even began cutting younger trees near the edge of the woods for extra firewood. Each time this happened, Biser noticed the great tree growing quieter. Its whispers weakened. Its leaves no longer shimmered beneath moonlight. and the clearing itself felt sad somehow. One night, Biser arrived carrying warm soup in a small clay pot. But the ancient tree did not greet him. The forest had become perfectly still. Too still. Then at last, a weak whisper drifted through the cold air. "The roots are hurting." Biser's heart tightened sadly. "What can I do?" he whispered quickly. For a long moment, only snow fell softly from the branches above. Then the tree answered. The forest must be remembered. That night, Biser barely slept. The wind moved restlessly beyond the cottage walls, and moonlight shimmered pale across the frozen fields. At dawn, he walked through the village quietly, stopping beside every cottage door. Most people barely listened at first, but Biser spoke gently. Not angrily, not loudly. He spoke about the old forest, about the rivers, the animals, the storms, the silence beneath the trees. And slowly, something began changing inside the villagers. Perhaps because winter itself had become so heavy, or perhaps because deep down, they remembered the old stories too. That evening, the villagers carried lanterns into the forest together for the first time in many years. Children walked beside their parents quietly beneath the snowy branches. Old men carried warm bread and blankets. Women tied silver ribbons around younger trees near the clearing. And there, beneath the ancient tree, the villagers stood silently together, listening to the wind move through the branches above. Then softly, the great tree whispered once more. And this time, everyone heard it. Not words exactly, only feelings. Warmth, peace, memory. The forest no longer felt lonely. Tears filled the eyes of some villagers quietly, because they suddenly understood something they had forgotten long ago. The world grows softer when people move gently through it. That night, the clearing glowed warmly beneath hundreds of lantern lights. Snow shimmered softly upon the branches, and somewhere deep beneath the frozen earth, the roots of the forest breathed peacefully once more. Winter slowly passed after that. Spring returned to the hills. The rivers thawed beneath golden sunlight, and birdsong filled the trees from morning until dusk. The villagers changed too. Children no longer broke branches carelessly. Woodcutters avoided the oldest trees, and people once again walked quietly through the forest paths. As for Biser, he continued visiting the ancient tree through every season. Summer, when fireflies drifted through warm evening air. Autumn, when golden leaves covered the clearing like soft blankets. Winter, when snow turned the forest silver beneath the stars. And each time, the tree still whispered softly to him. Years passed gently. Biser grew older, taller, wiser. But he never lost the quietness inside him. Even as a grown man, he still listened carefully to rivers, to rain, to snowfall, and to the wind moving through ancient branches at night. One peaceful evening, Long after his hair had begun turning silver, Biser returned once more to the clearing beneath the fading sunset. The great tree stood waiting quietly beneath the evening sky, its branches enormous against the stars above. "You stayed with us," the tree whispered softly. Biser smiled warmly and rested his hand upon the ancient bark once more. "So did you," he answered gently. The leaves above shimmered with golden light, and all through the listening forest, the wind carried soft whispers between the trees. Even now, travelers who wander through old Bulgarian forests sometimes speak of a strange peaceful clearing hidden deep among the hills. A place where the trees seem to breathe softly beneath the moonlight, and where the wind sounds almost like quiet voices drifting through the leaves. Perhaps, if someone enters with a gentle heart and listens carefully enough, they too may hear the forest whisper softly in the dark. And if you would like to hear more gentle stories, you can subscribe to Talechka's Tales. Good night, and sweet dreams.